You're listening to Within Tolerance, a podcast for machinists by a machinist. I'm your host, Dylan Jackson of Protein Machining, and this week I am joined by Daniel Römer. And actually, Daniel, I don't know your company's name because you are Bavaria CNC on Instagram, but I'm not sure I know. So, what do you do? What is your company, and where can people find you online?
Yeah, so hello, Dylan. I'm pleased to be here, and my company Bavaria CNC is technically just a brand name of a bigger company. I'm part of a company that mainly produce job shops, and we have like 2 or 3 customers that we exclusive produced for. The whole thing with the company is that we have been founded out of a company that needed CNC machine parts, and we didn't had any CNC machinery, and so we founded this Bavaria CNC thing to get our own CNC machine parts.
Very cool. And then, how big is your company? And a rough overview of what you do for them.
So the CNC part is technically just me. My wife is coming time to time for help me, but technically it's run by myself. I enjoy this pretty much because so I can do whatever I want and nobody is annoying me around me, and I don't have to take care about anybody else where to lay stuff or something. And we are doing mainly milling stuff. Like we do CNC milling. We have all other stuff like conventional grinding, surface grinding. We have turning machines, but the main focus is on CNC milling.
Great. Well, let's get into your backstory. So, how did you get into manufacturing and machining? And take us as far back as you want.
Technically, I'm not out of that trade. So the thing is, I studied mechatronics as an engineer, and after that, I was designing stuff like. I worked for EADS for time, so we started making satellite stuffs. And this was just a very short period I have been there. Then I went to the company of my father, and my father's company is mainly doing sportive arms like air rifles, air pistols, small bore firearms, something like that. And the problem for his company was several parts that he got from other CNC shops either had way too long delivery times or did not come in the precision he needed for his products. And so the idea was born that we buy one CNC machine and do this stuff our own. Sad, and we did that, but the main problem is nobody really was out of that business. So it was more a try and error thing in the beginning, and the machine was it was an old Deckel, an FP5 NC, so a quite big, massive machine, not too fast, not too high in speeds, but could solve the problems we had with those specific parts that we had. And this was my entry to the CNC trade. And after we found that this just a few parts we made have been pretty good, and it helped the production of the company a lot, we increased this quite a lot. And one machine comes to the another, and then we changed all the old machines to new machines to get better parts, bigger parts, more precise parts. And the end is the stuff that you can see on Instagram or YouTube, like the 2 Hermles, the Haas. And with those machines, we make all the parts that we need for the company of my dad. And as there's still capacity left, we do some job shops for other companies as well.
That's really cool. I had no idea that you kind of just jumped in with both feet. So, when you were starting, what kind of resources did you use to learn this trade? Because it's that sounds like it could have been a very nerve wracking and quite the insurmountable task to just jump in and say, okay, I got to start making precision parts now.
Yeah, so the main resource was really the internet. So I used YouTube quite a lot, intensively, honestly, just to get an idea what NC code is. And this worked pretty fine in the beginning. So the first programs I wrote on Windows Notepad and transferred it to the machine. And this was still like the time for machine that when you have to go to the machine, there's no real DNC on that controller, so you have to use like audio tapes to get your code into the machine. And yes, I learned a lot of it. I mean, I destroyed a lot of things, much more than I destroy now. And I know a lot of people. I think a lot of people just follow me because of my crashes, but back in the days, there have been much more crashes than now. And this try and error thing of how to produce code that works on a CNC machine, that was really fascinating me. And I think this is something I can tell to everybody. If you want to enter this trade and you just have a lot of passion, I mean that this is what you need for get this. Like, you need passion to make good chips, to make good paths, to make precise parts. Then the rest will come its own. After you did that notepad age, you pretty quick will want to change to a CAM system. And I got a very, very, very simple one that it has even not a post processor. It's like when you click something, it directly generates the code and you can't change it back. But it helped me a lot. And then after 2 or 3 years working with this software, I upgraded with the new machines. I upgraded that software to SolidCAM. And the same thing there, it's like try and error. I bought the basic, very, very basic module and just played around to get the software known and learn what I'm missing. And by knowing what you're missing, I knew which packages to purchase, because otherwise it's like you can purchase everything and don't know how to use it.
Exactly.
And so I think it's better to start with not having anything and then seeing the demand that you really have.
So how long have you been doing this in total? When did you guys buy the decal?
So the decal I bought in 2004. So it's quite a while ago. So it's 18 years now.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, it really is trial and error. I think even people who have had, formal apprenticeships or gone to school for it or something, it's still trial and error. It's just, it depends on whose dime it is. And really, like, I applaud people like you who jump in with both feet, because it's really scary to like crash your own machine, much more so than like a school's machine or, an employer's machine or something.
Yes, I mean, you always have this in your mind that crashes always cost a lot of money, and that's why I also decided to get one of those old machines like Decal, because that's a machine like a tank. Basically, you can't destroy it. Like the machines today, they have so much power and so much speed, they destroy themselves pretty quick. And those Decal machines, it's like it's a big, massive block of steel. And if you do something wrong, there will some technician needs to come over, but it won't be like dead. And I still have the machine. The machine itself is built in 1985, so it's quite an old machine now. But it's still it's fun to work with it from time to time.
Oh yeah, well, a lot of those machines with the old iron, like they're, like you said, they're built like tanks, so they might not be super fast, but you can just hog material off like no other. So they definitely still have their interest to most machinists, I think.
Yes, I think so too. I mean, even for if you see the price that you have to pay today for those machines, it's like basically the steel price plus some electronic parts. And you will never get anything comparable to it with a running spindle that makes chips in that quality. I mean, the parts are still precise. It's not that the machine is unprecise or something like this. So this, I would recommend everybody to start with a machine like this to get the first steps in the trade. And the errors there are much cheaper than if you buy a Hermle DMG or whatever. And the crashes are higher in numbers than this decal costs in total.
Definitely. So let's talk about your Hermles. You have two now. What went into the whole process to go from your decal to those? What were you looking for? Why'd you choose that brand specifically? All that good stuff.
The first, I mean, the thing for me is, I mean, I'm German, and German likes to have German stuff. That's yeah, that's the way it is. And in Germany, to having a Hermle is like you're driving the Mercedes in the end. And so I always wanted to have a Hermle. I even didn't know why I wanted to, but I wanted to have it. And then when the demand for a new machine was coming, I was browsing around for used machines. I didn't want to buy a new one at that point. And just around 100 kilometers away from me, there was a old Hermle, or old, it was built 2006, 3-axis machine available. And at this point, I only wanted 3-axis. And I drove to that guy and looked at the machine. And I was pretty impressed of. I mean, if you come from the decal and see what's possible with a machine of that type, I was totally flashed and impressed. And we talked about the price, and everything was fine in the end. So we decided to get it. And then I had the Hermle, and I was working. It was working like, I can't describe. It's like getting to a new planet when you have that change of machinery. And then the classic happens, like everybody waits when the first thing happens, is I have that machine for about 3 weeks, and then I had the first spindle crash.
Oh no.
Yes. And then the thing was, I was thinking that the problem will be, as it is a used machine, I didn't buy it from Hermle, that probably the service will be not as quick as if you are like the first owner of a machine or something like this. And the process was this: the spindle was crashed, and it was not crashed, but there's this bushing system. I don't know how to pronounce it. That prevents your spindle from a hard crash, but you have to replace those bushings later on. So
Right.
I called Hermle at around 2 o'clock afternoon. 2 p.m. Then they ask for your machine number and you will get a recall. 10 minutes later, I got that recall. And I got a very, very friendly technician there, and he described me the process of what needs to be done. I told him the address where the machine is standing. And next day, at 9 p.m., all spare parts have been at the shop. And at 10 a.m., the technician was here. It took him around, I would say, 2 hours to exchange everything and measure the geometry if everything is good. And then he left. And that cost me around €1,000, which is basically nothing for
a spindle crash. Jeez.
Yes. And this was something that was like making a big base for me and Hermle, because this was like, I didn't expect it that quick, and I didn't expect it, I won't say it's cheap, but economic in price. And this is when Hermle was for me the brand to be. And after a few years more, we needed more and more capacities, and we needed more complex parts. That's why we decided to get a 5-axis machine. And so the demand for us was to get a new machine at this point. And we said, okay, Hermle is an option, but we also know that there's this myth that Hermle is like the super expensive ones. So we got the Hermle salesman here to get a quote. And on the same day, I got two other brand salesmen here to also quote their machines. And the way those guys selling machines was totally different. So the Hermle guy was here, and he was only focused on my problems. So he was focused on, what do I want to do, what are the parts that I want to do, speeds I need, and everything like this. He was really focused on his product, choosing the most perfect product for me to getting the job done. The other guys was mainly focused, because they knew I have a Hermle, telling me how expensive Hermle is and what they can do better than a Hermle, instead of telling me what they could do for me. And this was not something I was happy about. And then the quotes came in, and basically between a Hermle and the other two brands, it was like a difference of €10,000. And the Hermle was 290,000, and the other was the other machines have been 280,000. So the price point was not the point anymore. And this was the day that when I decided to buy the second Hermle, the C400 as 5-axis. And on the same day as I bought the second Hermle, I also decided to buy a new Haas, a VF2, because I still think if you have a Hermle or more Hermle, you will have the need for a Haas machine or something comparable to a Haas. Like the main problem is, if you have the Hermle, your hour costs are still pretty high. And you have always like the last side operation where you just have to plane a surface or make a fret or deburr or something. And therefore, you do not have to have done that job on your Hermle machine. And if you have a machine like a Haas, or it can be anything else in that price range, they will do that job just as great as the Hermle will do. You won't see a difference which machine has done that job. And so those machines help us to get a good price for our customers to get their jobs done, not super expensive, but in super quality.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. I mean, like you said, your shop rate it is very dependent on your machine cost, and yeah, taking a dovetail off of a part doesn't require a 300,000 pound machine or euro machine. So that totally makes sense.
Yeah, that's what we saw. And I have to say, I mean, I get a lot of weird comments when I show stuff on the Haas that those fanboys of like the expensive machines tell me why I'm using a Haas machine. And I have to say that I really like to work on the Haas. It has its benefits. It has what's the opposite? It's
Drawbacks or
yeah, the
yeah,
drawbacks. And but at the end of the day, it's a great milling machine. And you have to see that the cost for a good VF2 SS is the same price as my Hermle just takes for the 5-axis table.
right.
And and so it's a machine with a spindle, with a tool changer, with everything. It's working. So it's always a machine to think about.
Definitely, yeah. So actually, speaking of Metal Engineering, asked what recommendations do you have for looking at used machinery like that? Any models or years that are better than others? Any common issues to look for?
Yes, there are pretty common stuff that you should take care of for used terminals. So the first thing, you should skip all the B series. So they have like mine are C. The B series, I personally would say it's too old to get into a productive job. They do service on it and everything, but I would personally skip those. I would stay with the C series. They are pretty good. There's only 2 machines I would either skip totally or really take a super close look. This is the C1200. It's a super big Hermle machine, and I personally do not know any owner of this machine that do not have a broken frame. And those
Really?
frames, yes, because they're so super huge, and if there's any kind of problems on the transport, those frames will crack. It's just a too big machine of that type. So C1200s, I personally would skip totally. The other machine is the C20. It's a small machine, a pretty small machine for a Hermle. They have a similar problem that the area where the chip actuating system is pretty thin. And if the transport is not done right, it can get a crack there as well on the frame. Those cracks can be solved. And the funny thing is, always when I show crashes of my Hermle, I get a lot of direct messages on Instagram from other persons that have crashes as well at that time. And those crashes on the C20 with this cracked frame seems to be common. And it can be repaired. There's a guy from Hermle coming with a hammer drill and drilling holes in your frame and making like iron and how do you call that, concrete work on the frame that it's stiff enough for working on it, and it will be as good as before. But I think if you have a machine and then somebody needs to come with a hammer drill and with concrete to fix it, it's kind of a weird feeling.
Yeah, that would make me very uncomfortable, even if it was the factory techs doing it. Just the idea of somebody drilling into my machine casting, or I guess it's not even really a casting, right? Because they're all epoxy granite bases.
Yes, all of them. I mean, those machines don't have the cast irons anymore. They're working with the epoxy stuff, and it's good. But you can fix it, but still, if you have that and if you see that, because I can't look at those pictures. That's so hard to see.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you brought it up. I think I would be remiss if I didn't ask you and have us talk about the crashes that you have had on your C400, because I mean, I like you said, it is very compelling Instagram content. Like, seeing the crush washers or the crush bushings, seeing your black spindle. Like, let's talk about how it happened. I know we had a question from CNC Couch asking, why don't you run machine simulation to make sure there aren't crashes like that? Let's kind of dive into your philosophy behind crashes, how it all happened, how it was repaired, all that good stuff.
Yeah. So first of all, I'm not proud of any crash I ever made. It's the benefit is only you get the black spindle and it looks better than the silver one, but that's not a benefit that it's worth to cause that crash. But the thing is, if I do my regular day work, I do simulation, I do double checks and everything everybody is doing in this trade. But all crash always happens when you do like quick and dirty jobs. Like mostly you need something for yourself. and you don't take as much care as you do on regular work jobs, and this causes the crashes. The most crashes that I produce is always manual error on tool lengths. So I have a presetter,
Mhm.
and so you measure, for example, tool length 100, and you punch in tool length 10. So you're missing 90 millimeter of tool length, and when you're going your G0 set plus 2, yeah, you're 90 millimeters too deep, and this is causing the crash. And what I have to say for Hermle, because what I always wondering is that so many guys tell me that any other machines would not have been crashed and only Hermle would crash. You have to see this machine going with full rapid speed, and don't ask if there's any material. It just goes with full rapid speed into the material. Every machine will crash. It's not only Hermle will crash. Every machine will crash. And I'm just lucky that Hermle is having a system, a mechanical system, not an electronic one. It's a mechanical system that will prevent your spindle of major damage. That I crashed the spindle within 2 weeks 2 times is my failure. It's not Hermle's failure. And that a system that prevents it will come to a limit when you do it too often. That's also normal. So the first time I did the crash, just the bushing system needs to be changed, which is around the 1,000 euros. Second time, the spindle got damage on the bearing sides, and we decided to change the spindle. It's not a complete spindle. The Hermle spindle is separated in 2 parts. It's the engine part, and then there's the spindle head. So the spindle head needs to be exchanged, and this is around, I think it was about 12,000 euro. And that's the point when you change from silver spindles, which are the brand new ones, to the black spindles. They are refurbished ones, and that's it. So every time you see a Hermle owner and watch at the machine he's running, just watch if it's a silver or black spindle, and you know what happened.
Well, then maybe that's another good point for metal engineering. If you see a black spindled Hermle, it's been crashed at some point.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, I do. So one thing that I was really looking forward to talking to you about was the C series and the performance series, because we are starting down that path of, I'm not buying a 5-axis machine this year, but in the next couple
Yeah.
years, I think we're going to have to be there. And after talking with my salesman, I was very surprised at seeing how, it's hard to say that, a $300,000 machine is affordable, but I guess when you compare it to other ones in the same range, it's not that bad. Like for a high end 5-axis, we specifically were looking at the C250,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not a terrible price for the level of machine that it is.
That's a real benefit for Hermle. I think the thing is, the price isn't that bad, because as soon as you entered first time the 5-level machining or 5-axis machining, your workflow will change dramatically, and the savings you have on 5-axis machines is it's you can't describe, because all this 3, 4, 5 times of putting some parts to the machine are gone. You basically, if you need a thread on the side, you just make it in there. And 5-axis machining is not only 5-axis simultaneously. Most people always think I don't need a 5-axis machine because I don't produce impellers. Nobody produces impellers. They only produce impellers for making nice videos and
Right.
selling super expensive cam modules. But nobody produces impellers. And so the main usage for me is really that I have options to get every angle I need as a position that the machine will bring the part, and I can operate there. And this saves so much money in handling parts and increases the precision, because I do not have the errors that I will do by bringing a part from one vise to the next, or from one tool to another tool. This is all gone. And the main problem is, if you have a leftover 3-axis machine, you won't use it as much anymore. I see it for me with my C40. There's so many parts that I could do there, and I skip them to the 5-axis, because there's one debore operation that is nicer on the 5-axis, so I do it on the 5-axis.
Right.
And I would always do this. And also what I like on the Hermle system is you only have to do just some decisions to find the right machine. The first decision you have to make is, are you in the performance line or are you in the high performance line? And for me, high performance line was never the place to be because I don't need faster dynamics than the C400 is having, or the C250 is just the same. It's so dynamic that more dynamic is just not needed. And the other thing that would qualify the high performance line would be if you need a torque table. And the torque table you only need, in my eyes, if you do really heavily 5-axis simultaneous jobs. And as I do not do high-end simultaneous jobs all the time, I don't need that. The torque table the C400 has is just good enough for me. It's like perfect. It's reliable. It's precise. So why to choose spending 40 or 50,000 euros more for the similar machine?
Yeah, definitely. So let me ask you this: are there any options you wish you had bought with your C400? Or I think we had a question from Obsidian Tools about automating your machine. I know that they have the HS Flex and all the Flex line of
Yeah.
robotics.
That's I mean, options that I should have bought. Yes, I mean, if I would say for the machine setup as it is, and let automation for that machine out of that view, I should have bought through spindle air. I only have through spindle coolant, which is important. Do not never buy a machine without through spindle coolant. That's a must have. And through spindle air would be nice as well. I should have bought a control laser for broken tools. I don't have that one. I also don't have the laser for measuring tools, but that's a philosophy thing. I don't like that, but I should have bought the one that controls broken tools. And with the rest, I'm pretty happy. I skipped a lot of options that other people normally buy. I did not buy the hand wheel. I don't need a hand wheel, and spending, I think it's 4,500 euro for a hand wheel that is staying like 95% of its time just at the next to the machine. It's not worth it. And basically that's it. I mean, there's just nothing you can choose wrong on it. But I bought the AFC option. I would not buy it anymore, I have to say. It's a nice system, but mainly if you work in steel, it's not working for aluminum.
What is the AFC system? I'm not familiar with that.
AFC, it's automatic feed control. So what it does, it's pretty clever. So you run your job as it is, and it will measure for the tool where you enable the AFC option. It will measure the spindle load. So it will measure out the maximum spindle load the machine produce at this certain job with the tool. And later on, you can say to the control that the maximum feed is your target load. So that for example, if your maximum load is 40%, you can say yes, 40% is the target. And you can say then, for example, that if you have a feed of, let's say, 1,000 millimeters, it can increase from 1,000 to, let's say, 2,000 millimeters. That's what the machine can increase, or it can decrease to 500 millimeters per minute. And it will automatically, like the whole time, like it will measure all time the spindle load, and it will try to reach the 40% of your spindle load that you entered. And then it will automatically increase at the areas where you do not have that big load, the feed of the machine. So, for example, you have a cut where it's not that much material, it will increase at this time your feed up to 2,000 millimeters per minute. And also, when you can say every cut that is below 5% spindle load is an air cut, then it will increase it by 500%, so that you have the air cuts speeded up. And this is helpful in steel. For aluminum, it's not helpful because you're running always like crazy feeds. There's no way for increasing them. They're already at crazy levels.
Right.
And for steel, this is useful. I don't do that many steel stuff, so I would not need it. With my actual cam system, when I use like roughing parts where you normally use AFC options, I use iMachining. And iMachining is basically doing something similar, but on the software side. So I don't know, I wouldn't need two systems. And the AFC option is like a 5,000 euro option. So I would skip that option as well.
Okay. And then we had a few questions. Looks like Heijo466 and Jashcon42 both asked, what's the best and the worst thing about your machine?
The best thing, I can't name the best thing on the machine. If you have a Hermle, you have to say that the the reputation Hermle earned over years is because of their precision, reliability, durability, and that's basically true. But if you have to name something that is major different, like really mainly different to other machine producers, it is their service. I have so many companies here with different machines. Like I don't want to name brands, but also German brands, big German brands. And if I compare service levels, it's so different. For Hermle, every time I had something with my machine is not running anymore, they can guarantee you up to 24-hour service for your machine. So you call them, and within 24 hours there will be a technician there. And and the good thing is the technician can do it then. I have other brands that I know. The technician is coming, and then the first sentence is, "Oh wow, now I finally can see that machine too." And this is not what you want to hear from your technician. And
No, definitely not.
so service is definitely outstanding. This is not comparable with other ones. And something that is not that good on a Hermle, they charge you a lot of money for anything you extra want. And you do not get mugs. If you ever buy a Hermle, ask for mugs, because they do not give you mugs for free.
Yeah, we had a couple of questions about that. Jan299 and Rob Johnson's both asked, when are you going to get your Hermle mug?
I have no idea. I mean, this thing started rolling, and I didn't know actually when, but it became pretty big. And it could be that I will perhaps, I don't know, perhaps tomorrow I will get a Hermle mug.
Oh,
Because there is a customer from Australia that he bought a Hermle, and he is having today a class at Hermle, Germany, and he mailed them also that he wants a mug now, because I didn't have one. And he also said that he probably is going to visit me tomorrow if he can get an extra mug for me as well. And we will see when he's visiting me if he's coming with a mug or without a mug.
well, that's great. I really hope you get one. It's really funny seeing the levels of swag that certain companies give you. You know, I know like Haas has everything under the sun. Like if you want a shirt, you want pants, you want hat, they have everything that you can at least buy. Yeah. And then there's some companies that, it's like pulling teeth to get a sticker or something. So
yeah. For Hermle, it's like this. I mean, they open and help you, but as soon as it comes to merch, it's a bit weird.
Yeah. Well, maybe I've had Matthias Kohler, the applications engineering director from Hermle USA, on. Maybe I'll have to reach out and say, hey, let's get Daniel a mug.
Yeah, we will see. The thing was, I think that's how it started. Like Yates Racers, they posted a picture in a story where she's having a mug of Hermle, and then just writing, "This mug is not like something that show that we got a Hermle or something." Then I just sent a picture to Hermle that I have 2 Hermles and I do not have a mug, and then it started its own thing. Yeah.
That's a good looking mug too. Yeah, you definitely want one of those.
It is, yeah, it is.
Let's see. So we had a few questions about food while machining. Stefan Godeswinter and Firmworks both asked, what's necessary for a proper breakfast, and what's the best sausage to have while machining?
Okay, so Stefan would probably agree with me, as he's like a similar food fanatic as me. For a good breakfast, you need to have like a proper pretzel. And a proper pretzel is like something not easy. A proper Bavarian pretzel has to have like 3 levels. The top level, where the knot is made, has to be super crisp, so that you have this crispy feeling when eating it. The side wings have to be a good connection between the crisp part and the bottom part that is soft. And those wings you use to dip in butter. And the bottom part, the soft part, you can use to add like jam, or if you like ham, you can add ham. Or like I do, I add Nutella to it. And Nutella is not containing a lot of vitamins. So you need to add a lot of it to get the most vitamins out of it.
Of course. Yeah.
That's the main thing for Nutella. Yes. And that's how it starts. Yeah.
And then what about the best sausage to have while machining?
The best sausage, I mean, as it's here in Bavaria, it's probably some kind of, I don't even know this. What's the word for that? Like we call it red sausage. It's like a grilled sausage and you eat that in a bun with a lot of mustard, and that's the best sausage that you can have with machining.
Okay. Okay. We'll definitely have to get some of those.
Yeah.
Let's see. Hijo466 also asked, where do you get all that cool tooling with the colored bands?
All the color bands toolings are basically for me from Hoffman. I don't know how international they are. They're pretty big in Europe. I know that they are in the US as well. And they are basically a dealer. They do not produce the tools. They just buy it as their recommendations or like their demands. But Hoffman is for me more than just a tool brand. As I told you before, that I did not have any backgrounds in the CNC trade. Hoffman was a big partner for me learning it. It's not like only buying their tools there, but the good thing for them was that I always had an application engineer next to me. So when I had a problem of manufacturing or a request for a certain type of tool, the guy was always here in the shop in person. It's not like because in the beginning I ordered not that many tools. It doesn't care. He always was here and helped me solving the problem. And this is way more value than just if you pay for end mill 20 euro or 100 euro. It's the support that you get behind the tool, and this for me I can say was always on a perfect level with Hoffman, and that's why I stay with Hoffman now for around 20 years. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think that, like you said, there is Hoffman USA. I know a few people who use their tooling. I believe, if I remember right, that all of their stuff is in metric. And so that's probably why they don't have a larger following in the US. You know,
Could be,
it's
yeah. Could
like
be.
I know I've talked to my business partner quite a bit about just standardizing on metric tooling because so many of our customers design in metric, but getting good metric tooling is not easy here. You know, there's only a few companies that make it. Hoffman has, like, I think Helical now makes some metric end mills, but it's, you know, it's hard to go against an entire country's worth of history.
Yeah.
So
True. Yeah.
but yeah, it seems like they make great tooling, and that their catalog is so expansive, especially on the European side.
Yeah. I mean, now the catalog, when I started, was like one catalog. Now they have about 5 or 6 catalogs that they need to split it, that the catalog is not like too big. And this is good and bad. The good thing is you get everything. I mean, if you need gloves, you get it. If you need end mill, you get it. What is not so good about is that in the end, your application engineer will not have an option to know everything. This is why they have like special application engineers for every special type of tool or whatever they sell. And in the end, the service of them, what they do is great, and I'm happy with it. And happy with the tool. I mean, the tools itself works just great.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, another question we had from O'Malley114 was, how do you manage to run so many different pieces of equipment? He asked how many employees, but you said it was just you and your wife.
It's just me, yeah. Yeah, so the good thing for me is that the quantities that we produce are pretty big for my shop size. I mean, there are others that would laugh about the quantities, but I have the average quantity is between 100 to 600 pieces. And for example, for the 600 pieces, there might be run times of 1 hour. So if I have 600 pieces with 1 hour runtime, there's enough time to operate different machines and and come stuff.
Definitely. So I don't think we fully answered Obsidian Tools' question. That have you thought about adding like a HS Flex or something to your Hermle to automate?
Yes, we skipped that. Really, I think automation is one thing everybody has to think about. Everybody, and the smaller the company is, the more he has to think about. I personally was at the point just right before Corona started that I'm going to sell my 3-axis C40 Hermle, and I wanted to exchange this one with a C400 again with an automation, because it's a game changer. I mean, the problem for all countries here is that you either do not get employees, you can't pay the employees, or the employees are sick, something like this. And with an automation, you have the options to get the most out of your invest, because you invested like 300,000 euros in a Hermle machine, and if you're operating it yourself, you can make a 12-hour stay. If you're super fancy, you can make a 14-hour stay. But then you're missing your life. And with the automation, your machine can run 20 hours, 24 hours. you do not have to be present all the time. So the investment in any kind of automation is always worth the value. If for Hermle, you can either buy it from Hermle directly, so a complete Hermle system with automation, with a bigger magazine stuff, with everything that you would need to run it really, really proper, would be around 500,000 if you, including the machine. If you want to add it, like for example, you bought the machine for 300,000 euros, then it's probably something like 40 to 60,000 euros. But in the end, I personally like the idea of buying it out of one system, so to buy the complete automation from Hermle, as it will be always like this. If there's a problem with something on the machine or on the automation, the machine producer will say, yes, that's a problem of the automation, and the automation guy will say it's a problem of the machinery. That discussion won't happen if I buy it from one person, because I don't care then anymore if it's machine or automation. They have to solve it anyway. This is why I prefer that. And I think that this is something that will help most smaller companies to be on the profit side of having a job shop. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. That's actually that's another reason that we are looking at Hermle, is that they make everything in house. The other brands we're looking at are things like Micron and other companies that make a full package, not just adding a UR robot. Not that that's a bad option, but like you said, when you're having multiple integrations and you have multiple integrators, you have quite a long list of people to call when there's issues. Whereas, with those fully integrated systems from manufacturers, you just you call
five mechanics at the same time there, because he needs to know what he knows, and this is nothing that will work for me. I mean, it could work for others, so it's not mandatory to do it the way I do it. But for example, my neighbor, he's also having a CNC shop. He is having Hermle C12 and the C400, both with automation. And every time he needs something, there's one guy coming. He's setting it up. He's fixing it, and everything is working fine in the end. And so this is the way to go, I think.
Yeah, that's great to hear that you're looking forward to that. And actually, so going back to your machine, do you ever encounter the 32 tools as a limitation? Because looking at the C250 or C400, that's always my first worry, is like, 32 tools doesn't seem like a whole lot of tools for 5-axis.
Yes and no. It really depends on the part. I only have, for myself, I have about 4 parts per year that will run above that limitation. So the C400 comes with 38 tools. And if you have to see, if you run in aluminum, it's okay, because in aluminum you do not need that many sister tools, because your tool life is pretty long. If you run it in steel, it's different, because if you run a lot of a lot of parts, you will have to have sister parts, and then it will become pretty close to an end. You can order like the extra storage for tools, but you need the space. I don't have the space to put those big tool storages to the machines. So it could be latest when you come to automation. This is a big limitation, and you only could operate automation with a tool storage bigger than, I would say, 100 tools. I would say 90. I think for the C400, the one of the next options is 88 tools, which is fine. But I would say 100 and more is for automation, something that should be with the machine.
Yeah, it'd be really nice. I mean, even 60 would feel less limiting than 32 or 38. So that's one question I've been asking of a lot of Hermle owners is, do you feel that crunch? Because that could be.
I think they could have solved the tool changer different. I mean, the tool changer is like a big wheel, a horizontal wheel where you have the tools in. And if they would skip that wheel idea and would have done a chain inside of that area they would probably be able to have more tools in the machine. And it might be that it's a bit slower in the end, but honestly, the first thing I do on most machines I reduce the speed of the tool changer, because you can operate the tool changer for the Hermle in 2 speed levels. They say you can run it in the quick mode if you do not have a tool inside that is heavier than, I think, 4 or 5 kilograms. But in the end, the super high speed tool change things, they always will cause some weird problems that will be cost intensive. And if the tool change will take 4 seconds, or if it will take 5.5 seconds, that's not the big deal for me at the end of the day. The same thing for the Haas. So the first thing I did on my SS, and everybody's laughing at me, is I reduced the max speed for rapid speed to 50%, and I reduced the tool change speed to 50%, because the 2 seconds that I will win on a part, or the 5 seconds that I will win on a part, I will lose at the point when I go to pee or get the next coffee or something like this. And the machine is not running at that time. Then I have a super fast tool change, and machine is waiting for me 2 minutes till I finish my coffee or something. Then in the end of the day, this was not worth getting the high speed of the tool changes.
Yeah, I could see that. Well, and especially you were saying that your cycle times are in the hours, and like, saving 30 seconds on an hour runtime doesn't really add up, I think.
I think so too. But I have people that care about that a lot, and I let them care about it a lot. I don't care too much. So my thinking is that tool change speed is, after a certain point, is not that big point anymore.
Yeah. Well, and I think if you're running 10-minute parts or 5-minute parts, then maybe that makes more sense. If I can, and if you're making 20 or 30,000 parts a day, if you're just like running that machine balls to the wall, trying to mass produce something, then sure, that makes total sense. But like like you were saying, an hour-long cycle time, you're sitting drinking coffee or running another machine or whatever. So I totally understand that philosophy.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. Another question we had was from Freddy Products, and they said, "How many thousands of liters of coffee do you drink in a week?"
That's a good question. I mean, I have a lot of mugs, and all those mugs have to be used somehow. Otherwise, they would be useless. I don't know. It's not too much. I think it's like something like 5 or 6 coffees a day, something like this. Yeah,
that's a lot, though. You've got a lot to do, so
yeah,
I understand.
There's a philosophy about coffee. I mean, coffee is like joy of life.
Right. Oh, yeah. Let's see. The Milling Miller asked, "What's the foaming cleaner you use on your..."
That's basically a funny fact. It was an accidental test. I normally use brake cleaner to clean tool holders or tools. And I have a lot of stuff from Word, and those cleaners all have the same design, so you do not really see the difference in the bottle you catch. And one time I catched this foam cleaner instead of the brake cleaner, and it was much better. I mean, the result was like super. And the foam cleaner basically is an active car window cleaner. And he's super for getting everything that is based on oil or grease, or even if it's like really hard on the tool or on the tool holder, I get everything off with it. And since that, I really love to use that.
Maybe you can send me the brand name of it, and I'll put it in the show notes so that everybody can find it.
I will make that. Yeah,
that'd be great. I think that does it for questions. So let's go on to shop news and new things. What is new in your world?
What is new in my world?
Any new tooling you're testing or strategies you're trying on 5-axes?
Yeah, so the biggest change for me in the last year was the upgrade on the cam side. So I decided to invest in that eye machining thing. In the beginning I didn't believe it would be a big difference, but then I got to test it for free in the beginning, of course, and it changes things dramatically. The first thing is that you have a much faster and much more efficient toolpath. The second thing is, for lazy peoples like me, you do not have to click as much buttons as before. So if you want to have a complex roughing job, it's basically like 5 clicks and it's done. And even if it might be not the super fastest job in the end, for aluminum, for steel it will be, but for aluminum it might be cleverer to do classical things. 5 clicks compared to like half an hour thing is still something that I take care of. This was quite big. Then the next big thing I got, basically I got a Freddy now, because I got a little bit pissed off my cleaning jobs I have to do, especially on the Haas. I do not have a skimmer, and oil is looking, or the coolant is looking pretty bad. That's why I decided to get a Freddy. And also for the Hermles, I could use it. Hermles do have their own cleaning system for the coolant, which is perfect. I mean, that system they have is amazingly good, and you technically would not need something like Freddy for it. But there is one filter, the first filter that is in the machine. It's always full with chips, always, and you have to remove it, to open it, to clean it, and it's always like half an hour of jobs that nobody wants to do. And with that Freddy, I just can put in that nozzle and suck out those chips, and then I'm best way to go again. Saves me an hour per machine. That's quite good. Yeah.
Which one did you get? Did you get the smallest one that they have?
It's called Micro Plus.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a quite neat machine. I mean, it's not too big. It's get everything done I need. It's nice thing, I have to say.
Yeah, I've got a few friends and past guests with them. We've definitely been looking at a few of those different systems, a Freddy or the X-Air air-powered ones. Because, coolant just sucks. Like it's or taking care of it, I guess, sucks. Like having good coolant is fantastic, but microfine chips, sucking out sumps and cleaning them, all that stuff is just like a giant pain point. I think for every shop, realistically.
Yeah, and the good thing on the Freddy thing is you have your filter in there, you filter everything out, and you either clean the filter, or if it's used, you just like recycle it, and you there's no that many needs to put really work on that coolant system anymore, and this is why I enjoy having one.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And real quick before we get on to the last segment of the show, one thing I wanted to ask you, as someone who is going to start looking down the 5-axis path, what was the most surprising or the biggest learning experience you had in 5-axis? Like, what was something you did that you're like, I've never been able to do that before, or I never would have thought to do that? Even looking at 5-axis from the outside, what surprised you the most?
I mean, it's always the little things. The most impressive thing on 5-axis works is deburring. I would say that 5-axis you would see 90% of the day just as a 3-axis machine that just position your part in the right angle. But as I have to deburr all my parts, and I do it all on the machine, or most of the things I try to do on machine, and that with 5-axis machine is incredible, because you can reach angles, you can reach anything, and you do not have to take your part in the hand and do that jobs later on after the machine. This is something I was really impressed how good it is on 5-axis machines.
Okay, that sounds great. And then are there any tools that you had never used before that you think are, secret sauce for 5-axis?
What I'm trying now is how do you call those? These are those end mills that have like a convex side.
Oh, like barrel cutter?
Yes, barrel cutters. This is what I just discovered. It's like I got my first one now, and I had some jobs where I need to use. Normally, I do use ball nose mills for that, and the ball nose mills took like ages, and this one was like super quick. I mean, it was like 10 times faster, and it was like even better in quality of the surface. This was really, really impressive.
Yeah, they're quite the interesting tool. I know that there's only a few manufacturers of them. There's starting to be more. There's only a handful of CAM softwares that support them. But yeah, it's like barrel, lens. I'm trying to remember the other ones. I always forget one or two of them. But yeah, they're pretty much large circle segment cutters, and they're really impressive for sure.
Yeah, and this is something you have to just use once. I mean, in the beginning it's a bit weird, but once you got into it and know how to use it, it's impressive. And the next thing that will be for people coming to more modern machines. I mean, if I take my step, was from the C40 to the C400. The biggest step was the through spindle coolant. So the first time you have through spindle coolant, and you can operate drill bits in a speed that you would never think that a drill bit will be able to survive. That's incredible. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, and then the tool life goes through the roof, and steels and exotic materials and things like that.
Yeah.
What about you have that great carbide slitting saw? I think it's a Hoffman, right?
Yeah, slitting saws is like a hobby for me now. I have like a little collection of them, and there are so many different ones for so many different reasons, but there are like those solid carbide ones, And if you have like a piece of solid carbide that is 100 millimeter or even like just 80 millimeters in diameter, it's so impressive. And I have one from Mimatic that is 80 millimeter in diameter and just 1 millimeter in width.
Oh my
So
goodness.
and you run it with, I think, like 2000 RPM and around 1000 millimeters per minute in feet. It's so crazy when you see that, when it goes like 25 millimeters in the material and you just crush that material off, and it's like, and surface is like superb. I mean, the thing with that solid carbide stuff is when you get the metal out of the teeth, the surface of those cutting surfaces will be dramatically better than what you could reach with any other cutting system. But they charge you a lot of money for that.
Definitely. Yeah. I know I think it was your story or your post about one of them that I started looking into them, and I was like, oh, that's a little rich for my blood at this point. Like, just to play with, like, I don't really need one right this second. I would love one in the future because I love the flush bottom that's on those. I've always
Yeah.
had slitting saws with the big, ugly cone on the bottom or something.
Yeah, I hate that. I mean, the thing is, I do a lot of parts out of blocks. So I have like a big block of aluminum on the machine. Let's say it's 700 millimeters long, and then I make around 40 or 50 parts on one level of that bar, and then just cut it off. And but the side needs to be good, and that's where those cutting tools have their biggest chance to be good. And I really like to use them in that.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that brings me to the last question I ask every guest every week, which is, what did you research this week? And it can be anything and everything, does not need to be manufacturing related. It's just always cool to see what other people in the trade are researching.
I was basically researching this week for cars. So for me is I need a new car, and the research here is about electric ones. So I want to get a bit away from regular fuel to the electric side, and I'm researching quite a lot if I'm going to a hybrid car or full electric ones, and which brand. And yeah, that's my big research I do this time. Yeah.
So, what's on the list right now that you're looking at?
Recently, I got from BMW the iX, which I have to say I do not like too much. It's a nice car. It's the engine is good, or whatever the engine is there. The your range is good, but I do not like the interior design. So it looks like, I don't know, the designer didn't had enough time and just finished job without doing anything. So that's why I don't like it too much. Right now, I have a hybrid one, the BMW X5 hybrid, which is pretty nice. I mean, it's basically a regular car that has this electric part on it. And the next one I want to test is basically a Porsche, the Cayenne hybrid,
Okay.
just to see how that operates compared to all the others that I had before.
Are you just renting these, or are you leasing them, or how are you
Right
trying them
now,
out?
I get them from the company. So basically, I asked them if I can have them for a weekend, and till now, no company denied. So till now, I have every weekend a different car that I can test. I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's a fantastic way to research. There's a lot of cars I wish I could have a weekend with.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
Daniel, I really appreciate you taking the time. I know you're a busy guy, especially running the shop yourself. So thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been great, kind of putting a voice to the Instagram and really getting to know you more.
This was like really fun. I was still like pleased to be here at all, and it was a really fun hour with you here.
Yes, thank you so much. And real quick before we close, Patreon thank yous. We got a whole bunch of new patrons. Devin from Like and Precision, thanks, buddy. Mike from Hudson Made, got John Wadcoat and Chris Clemens. Thank you all for supporting the podcast and letting me do this and get to talk to awesome people like Daniel. And again, thank you, Daniel. I will be back next week. And thanks again.
Thank you here, and see you all.